Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 4 replays in the brand new Japanese Tier 8 Tech Tree Tank Destroyer, the Ho-Ri 2. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Ho-Ri 2, we're at the Tier 8. And it's a tank that I don't not get on with it, but I do not get on with it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sort of a bit meh with it, if that's a way of describing it. I have some games where I go, yeah, I like this tank, and there's some games where I go, I don't like this thing. You know, it's just one of those tanks where I don't always get on with it, but I do get on it with it occasionally. And yeah, I think I prefer the stock gun to the top gun, which is weird. It's just a bit of a weird tank. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it, but I'm also not 100% like, oh, it's terrible. You know what I mean? I'm just sort of a bit... I don't know. I don't know. It's just one of those tanks that I haven't really clicked with, but at the same time, I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's great either. The premium tank, which is the one we've just shot at there, the Kari, I do think the Kari is naturally very much better than this vehicle. I think the Kari is a fantastic tank destroyer, and it's definitely way, way, way better than this vehicle is. This vehicle is a little bit awkward at times, but also it's quite nice in other ways. So, I mean, we've got like 486 meters of view range with this tank, which is definitely very good for it. It means that you can spot for yourself really easily. It's the first one that you truly get to, and you've got like fantastic view range. And you've also got 231 meters of still concealment, which is glorious. The camo on this tank is great. You stay unspotted in so many situations that is beautiful. Add to that the stock gun, which is, again, a 105 centimeter gun, is actually really, really damn nice. Then you've got a 400 alpha gun, which is quite decent, but I feel like it's really inconsistent. I don't know, I just didn't like the 120 myself, but it hits for 400, whereas this gun hits for 320. The one thing that is obviously a little bit sad about the tank that I'm not the biggest fan of is the fact that this tank goes at 30 kilometers an hour, which is very slow. It is a slow tank destroyer, which is a bit of a pain. But does it have armor? Well, yes and no. Yes and no. The mid plate is not great. The lower plate is not great. The superstructure on top is actually pretty damn decent if you're on a ridgeline. I mean, your gun mantlet is 270 to 250 millimeters of raw armor, and the cheeks on the superstructure as well are actually 175 millimeters thick, which means that, yeah, as long as you don't flatten it out when you're facing an enemy tank, they're going to bounce quite a lot on a ridgeline. As long as they don't hit the cupola, you're going to bounce quite a lot on a ridgeline, which is nice. You just got to be careful that you don't overexpose the mid plate, because the mid plate is definitely a bit of a struggle to keep not getting penned, because the mid plate on this tank is 220 millimeters of thickness, which is good against tier 7s and good against tier 6s. Against tier 8s, it's still pretty decent, but they are more getting to be a 50-50 to go through it with their standard rounds. And then once obviously you get against tier 9s and 10s and they're firing their standard or premium and even tier 8 premium, it starts to go pretty poorly for the armor on the tank, but that's just the way it goes for sort of armored tank destroyers, right? So what do I run in terms of a crew on the Ho-Ri 2? Well, pretty much the same as I have across the whole line, and that is Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Clutch Braking. Clutch Braking to make this tank turn a bit quicker, to be able to get this gun turned on target. Steady Aim and Snapshot, or Steady Aim and Run and Gun, sorry, to make sure that this gun is 10% more accurate and give it that sort of 10% of vertical stabilizer vibe, to make sure that the gun is not blooming out too much on the move. Then the camouflage perks to make sure that the camo is really damn nice for the tank, so that I can get it down to that very good 231 meters of still concealment. And then the equipment is the loader, the optics, and the camo net to make sure that I can get the camo as good as possible, the DPM as good as possible, and be able to spot for myself with that nice 486 meters of view range. And that first game was sadly a loss, but we managed to get 3.5k damage and 309 assistance with 908 base XP on that loss. And that was, again, that was a fairly average game for the Ho-Ri 2. And it kind of showed the 105mm gun that is on this tank. It is a really nice gun. And like I said, I feel like I prefer it. I ain't gonna lie. This second game is also with that same gun. I just feel like I prefer that 105 because it just feels far more consistent. I mean, with that gun, you have 220 pen on the standard AP rounds, with 252 pen on the premium AP, and you also have a 2.21 second aim time with it, with 1.23 accuracy during movement and 1.01 accuracy during rotation, which is fantastic. It means the gun basically doesn't bloom out that much. That's with the setup that we've got. 0.29 base accuracy, well, not base accuracy, 0.29 accuracy with the setup we've got as well is also great. And it just means that you don't really have to wait that long for the 2.21 second aim time to actually get the gun aimed in. You also have 2.9k DPM, which is beautiful. And it just feels like this tank is really damn consistent with that gun. And I don't know, I enjoyed it a little bit. Well, I say a little bit. I enjoyed it in some situations, not in others, which is the way it is with stock guns, right? But I didn't hate it. I actually quite enjoyed it with this gun. And then I went up to the 120mm, and the gun just kept missing and finding ways to just hit the dirt, which was a little bit frustrating for me. And thus, I didn't enjoy it that much. And that's what made me hesitate with the tank. I really did enjoy this 105mm gun. You do have 850 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP with 950 on the premium AP, so bear that in mind as well. The one thing that you do have on this tank as well, by the way, is that you can see with the reticle on your screen, the second one, that is it's got a multi-weapon system. It actually has a little 47mm gun, which can be quite handy if you load full gold, because it's got 122 penetration on its premium round on that multi-weapon system, which, as you can see, can start to keep your damage ticking up when you're against tanks that don't have the best of armour. So this 114 SP2, if he turns his turret slightly to the side, I can actually pen that with the multi-weapon system. So you can see I put a round in with the main weapon, and then we put 2 shots in with the multi-weapon system, and we shut down that 114 SP2. Good night, Mr. Tier 10 Tank Destroyer. We've now got the CS63 coming behind us, and I thought, you know what, let's get a shot into the Bayer, and then we can turn around possibly to deal with it. But, to be honest, well, actually, I hadn't realised at this point. I put a shot into the Bayer, and then I went, hang on a minute, that's a CS63. Then I realised there's a tank destroyer coming behind me, and I'm just dead at this point. So I decided to track the CS63, and I can use the multi-weapon system to keep this CS63 pinned. I know I'm going to die to the TD that's coming after us, but I'm just trying to get as much off of this CS63 as humanly possible before we go down, so we can try and get, you know, as much out of a tier 10 medium tank as we can. And sadly, we do end up getting shut down by the E4. But that was just the consistency, that nice DPM that you get with that gun, and the consistency you can push out of that 105mm gun. That was just a nice example, again, of just how much you can just keep pushing the damage. We ended up with 3.7k damage with that gun in that game in a tier 10 lobby. But we're on to the third replay. In the third replay, we are finally fully upgraded. We have the 120mm gun now, which has, again, 2.9k. It's actually got pretty much the same DPM as the stock gun. In fact, you have ever so slightly better DPM than the stock gun, which is definitely nice. And you have 400 alpha. The reload with the setup we've got is 8.02, which naturally, if you boost with food, will knock it down below. Well, it's probably more like 7.5 seconds, something like that. We'll see that when we do it, which is really, really nice for 400 alpha. The penetration is 250 on the standard AP rounds, with 285 on the premium AP. And again, it says APCR, but they don't have an icon or the ability to just show the fact that it's premium AP, but it is actually premium AP just for your normalization reasons. And the shell velocity is 900 meters a second on the AP, with 1,000 on the premium AP too, which isn't the best, but it's not the worst. Our aim time's actually gone down to 2.12 seconds from the stock gun, which was 2.21, which is actually really not bad. And our accuracy during rotation, with the build we've got, is 0.91. And accuracy during movement is 1.2. Which means, again, the gun doesn't really bloom out that much at all. Which means you're always pretty much ready to go. But I don't know what it is about the gun. It's just one of those guns that it feels like if it has the ability to miss and hit that bit of dirt, it will hit that bit of dirt, which is a little bit frustrating. And I just found this gun a little bit more frustrating to use than the 105. I don't know what it was about it. That was just my experience with it. It just felt like a little bit more inconsistent than the other gun. And I have no idea why, because statistically it's better. It's got 0.28 accuracy with this build as well. It's just one of the, I don't know, it's probably one of those oddities, right? But we're up to 912 damage in this first game with the top gun, with a bit of assistance, and I know there's some light tanks on the hill. We managed to get rid of the Carnarvon, and we know there's a light tank on the hill. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get rid of the HMH-58 that we do know is up there. Because naturally, the problem is that the light tank up there can basically stop me pushing the medium tanks that might be at E3. If I was to push down there, they'd have 3 shots into my rear, which we don't want. So it's a bit awkward because we're a turretless tank destroyer, but we are going to go after him. And a bit of a nightmare scenario is that there's actually 2 light tanks up here. We didn't spot the first one, but we saw the second one. So we're just going to see if we can take these 2 guys out. So we were just looking for a cheeky shot through the gap here at the HMH-58. And with the armour that we have, and the terrible penetration that HMH-58 has, I know the HMH-58 is not going to pen me in the front. So I want to try and keep my front to this guy if possible. We get a shot into him with the main cannon. He is getting round us, but our track traverse on this tank with the build we've got is 35 degrees a second, which means we aren't the easiest to get around. The HMH-58 has run away, though, because he's run out of rounds. And that SP1C got done in because we actually had the multi-weapon system. And that's where the multi-weapon system can be pretty handy. Because we managed to get 1 shot into him for 400, and then we switched to the multi-weapon system, RB'd on, and then just unloaded into him and shut him down with it. And the multi-weapon system isn't all that useless on this tank, and it can be useful for situations like that. If you get attacked by lightly armoured tanks, it's pretty useful. So this HMH-58 is actually thinking about coming after us again. He's gone round this building here, and I'm like, again, I know that I can bounce him from the front. So I put a shot into him, we break his engine, and I think, oh, maybe I can ram him off the cliff. But he quick trigger repairs it and gets himself back round us, puts a shot into our side. But fortunately enough for me, again, because I know he's got terrible penetration on his standard APCR rounds, because the penetration on the HMH-58 is awful, he bounces off our front and we finish him off with the multi-weapon system. And we get rid of the light tanks. The 2 light tanks gone. That again showed that the multi-weapon system can be pretty damn useful. It's a little bit awkward though, because you've just seen it, that there's random spots where it doesn't have any elevation, or it's just pointing at the floor if you're looking at in certain directions with it, so you got to be careful of that. But yeah, there's 2 tanks left. There's a medium tank in H1, and there's a tank destroyer in their base. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get as close as possible to find them. There's the Iron Rain. We try and pop the shot straight away, and we missed. Sad, sad times. I know we didn't really aim it that well, but we had most of the tank in the reticle, and it decided, nah, you know what? I'm just going to miss that because no. But RNG giveth, RNG taketh. And that shot wasn't really the best shot in the universe because we didn't really feather it out enough, and there was a rock in the way that meant that we ended up missing the shot. We do finish the game with, again, a fairly standard game there for the Ho-Ri 2 with the 120mm gun. 4 kills, 3.2k damage, 351 assistance. The first class with the 1517 base XP. A really nice game there for the Ho-Ri 2 on Cliff. The Kari on our team actually came top there, and again, it's probably a testament to just how good the Kari is. The Kari is a really nice tank because, again, it's that very similar to the Cheeto SP, where the armour is pretty usable on a ridgeline and stuff like that. You can ricochet a good amount of shots against same tier and lower, and even against some of the tier 9s, but naturally you've got to temper what you're playing against. If you're getting against some of the tier 10s and the tier 9s firing premium, that's where your armour starts to fall apart. But your gun has great penetration, which is actually slightly better than this tank in terms of its penetration. You have good DPM as well, because you've got that 500 alpha, which is very, very juicy on the the Kari, which just means that you do slap and you feel like you're hitting people very hard with 500. It's definitely a bigger number than, well, obviously it's a bigger number than 400, right? But the rolls you're getting is just more significant, and it hurts the enemy tanks far more than the 400 alpha of this. And the fact that you go at 40 kph as well instead of the 30 kph that this tank goes at, yeah, it's just... And just the armour profile in general as well is a little bit better because it's not stepped like this tank is. The Kari is just a far better tank. I mean, the DPM on, obviously, the Ho-Ri 2 with the build we've got is 2.9k DPM. And on the Kari, which is a fairly similar build as well, we've got 2,875. So we're only losing about 100 DPM on the Kari for an extra 100 alpha, which we're going to take every single day of the week, if we're totally honest, because that extra alpha in the moments where you only get a chance to get one shot at someone is definitely a lot nicer than the 400. I don't know, I just feel like the Hori 2 is probably just a little bit underwhelming, if we're honest, and that's why I'm so about it, because it is a little bit underwhelming in that there's quite a lot of situations where this tank is just a bit poo. But there's also a few situations where this tank is actually quite nice. And it's a real big mix. It takes a lot to get the most out of it, if we're honest. It takes a lot to get the most out of it. And the strengths, I'm not sure the strengths of the tank make up for some of the weaknesses, really. You know, I don't know. I'm still deliberating about this tank. I'm still a bit like on the fence. I don't really know where to place it. Not like the Cheeto SP, which I knew I loved playing, and the G-Row, which I kind of like was surprised by how nice it was to play. And the Honey, where I was just like, I don't like this tank. This tank is not me, and I don't feel like it's very good. You know, I'm not quite sure where to sit with it, pretty much. But we're on this fourth and final replay. And what we're going to do is we're going to push quite aggressively here on this map, which is Dukla Pass. We are top tier, which is always glorious. And we're going to go after this T29. So we put a big shot through the T29's upper plate. Our 250 pen is going to be great for going through these guys. And because we're kind of hull down as well, it means we're in a good position for them to struggle to go through us. We put a shell straight through the turret roof of that T29, getting rid of him. And we can now move up onto the AMX. I poked out around the corner and hesitated for a moment because I thought, oh, maybe there is a tank destroyer still looking at us. But it's fired, and I decide, okay, I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. Maybe that tank destroyer hits us, maybe he doesn't. He did actually hit us, but he only tracked us. We burn the repair kit, and we get ourselves moving. We take another hit from the TD that was over there, but thankfully it missed. We get a shot looped over the top of that ridgeline into the M4043, which is great. He's now unspotted, but we know where kind of he is. And thankfully, the shot goes through and finishes off that artillery. Good night, Mr. Piggy, which is always a great time to get rid of the old Piggy. There's only 9 tanks. I say only 9 tanks. There's 9 tanks left on the enemy team. We're up to 2.1k damage with 2 kills. And I want to try and put myself in a position where maybe I can get a shot at this G-Saw. If I push up to this ridge in front of me over here, maybe I'll spot the things that are up there at F3. Wow, that went really low. Maybe I can spot the things at F3, and I can get myself in a good position to get shots into the G-Saw. And then I was really quite surprised. Oh, shot! Yes! Good night, Mr. CDC Black. We hit that guy in midair. That was a sick shot. Fair play, me. Then we hit that guy in midair, finished him off with an RBRT from the multi-weapon system. Once again, we know 122 pen can go through an ISU 130. We get a couple of shots into him, and then finish him off with the main 120mm gun. Oh, that was a really satisfying shot on that CDC Black. Those two caught me out. I didn't expect the CDC Black or the ISU 130 to just be sitting there in those positions. That was really unorthodox position, but hey-ho. But we do get to shut them down. We now get a shot into the back of the G-Saw to help our friend out as well, get him out of the game, and we're up to 3.5k damage with 5 kills. There's 6 tanks left on the enemy team, sentry spotted in front of us, the artillery over there at G1, and then we know where the other 3 tanks are, which is they are all basically along the A line and the D3 position. So there's the UDES 03. There's the T20 and the FCM. Okay, so we've got to try and position ourselves in a position where we can get shots into the T20 and the FCM, but also get shots towards the Senshi and the UDES. So we're going to find this rock over here, because this rock will give us the cover from the left to get a shot at the T20, but we can also pull round it to try and get shots at that UDES and the Senshi too. So we couldn't find a shot at the Senshi. We do get a shot into the back of the UDES, which tracks him in position, and we couldn't quite switch to the multi-weapon system in time to get a shot into him as he repairs it. And now we're going to have to try and chase these guys down because they are running. Why are you running? They're running away from us. How rude. They're supposed to sit there and take the shots. Oh, they're supposed to feed me damage so I can get a good video. What are they doing? They've not read the memo. So we try and get a shot into the King Tiger on the move, but sadly don't get it. The FCM-50T was just below the ridgeline, so we couldn't get it. We aimed the shot towards the T20, and that looked like it was going to fly true, and it missed. We don't quite get the top gun on that guy. The UDES we know has managed to run away. The King Tiger's there, and I'm like, hang on a minute, did that King Tiger really just drive out? I didn't expect him to just leave his cover and leave his position of safety, but we do manage to get a shot into him, and the KV-3 shuts him down, so we don't quite get the kill on him to get the top gun, and the Senshi actually managed to get away, I think, because there's a medium tank spotted at C8, and I was hoping... So right now, I think, okay, that Senshi is definitely behind that rock, right? Because surely he would have got spotted crossing the AB line and getting up towards our cap. He would have been spotted. But there is a medium tank that's currently running down the D line, which I was thinking could be the T20. The UDES is somewhere as well, which, again, I was figuring maybe they just set up shop behind that rock because that rock will give them safety. But there's the medium tank getting spotted. It is the Senshi over there as well. And at this point, I go, oh boy. They're both over there. Where's the UDES? If the UDES is over there, the likelihood of me actually getting anything out of this game has just gone down the toilet. And this is, again, where the Ho-Ri 2 is a little bit painful, because we just can't get there. We are going at 30 kph, which we do hit. We do have a power to weight on this tank of 15, or 15.02, which is really quite nice, which means you do hit 30 kph. But 30 kph just isn't that nice. And when you're having to chase the damage and chase the game, you just don't get the opportunity to get there to get the damage, which is, yeah, it's just one of the things that makes the Ho-Ri just that little bit painful. Again, if it had the mobility that was similar to the Kari, where it gets that 40 kph top speed, I think this tank would be okay. I think this tank, I'd probably be going from the I'm undecided to sold. Like, okay. Obviously, it's got differences to the Kari, because that's balancing. But I feel like it can compete with it, and I feel like it's just as good. But it's not. The Kari is far, far better. But I feel like if it just had that 40 kph top speed, maybe it would be like, okay, yeah, I do like this tank, you know? That 30 kph does kill it a little bit. As well as the armor being just that little bit awkward. So we get the chance to get the shot of the Senshi, but just as we pull the trigger, the Panther kills it, and we don't get the shot to get the top gun. But we do finish with the victory, the 5 kills, 4.6, nearly 4.7k damage, high caliber, the first class, 1703 base XP, a pretty damn nice game there for the Ho-Ri 2. And yeah, that was the Ho-Ri 2, a tank that I am very undecided on. I just don't know about it. I played like 25 games in it. I just don't know. I just don't know at this point. I'm very undecided. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success.